Environmental psychology, humans in context. The role of designed and natural environments in shaping human thought, behavior, and identity. Introduction. What does environmental psychology do? If you were to follow a modern human through a single ordinary day, you would find them performing a remarkable series of contradictions. They would express strong support for recycling, then toss a bottle into the nearest general bin. They would complain about noise while wearing headphones. They would seek nature by scrolling through photographs of it. And they would do all of this with a brain that, by design, expects something rather different. This chapter is about designing around mismatches such as this, and about the surprisingly methodical ways researchers have gone about studying this field. The curious case of the well-intentioned recycler. Let us begin with recycling, a behavior so universally endorsed that one might assume it happens automatically. It does not. This is Enter the Theory of Planned Behavior, developed by Isaac Adson. The theory proposes that behavior is not driven by goodwill alone, but by behavioral intention, which itself is shaped by three components. Attitudes, beliefs about outcomes. Is recycling useful or worthwhile? Subjective norms, perceived social pressure. Do people around me expect me to recycle? Perceived behavioral control, ease or difficulty. Is there actually a bin nearby, and do I know what goes in it? These three factors combine to produce intention, which is the closest predictor of behavior. However, intention is not sovereign. If recycling is inconvenient, confusing, or socially invisible, behavior often fails to follow. A proper study, then, does not ask whether people support recycling. It surveys attitudes, measures social norms, family, peers, community, assesses control, access, knowledge, convenience, models intention against actual observed behavior. A useful nuance. Perceived behavioral control can directly influence behavior, especially when real constraints exist. In other words, even a highly motivated person cannot recycle into thin air. Pricing the priceless. Environmental decisions often hinge on value, which is awkward when the thing being valued is, say, clean air. Economists approach this with two complementary tools. Willingness to pay, WTP, the maximum someone would pay for a benefit. Example. Preserving a forest. Willingness to accept, WTA, the minimum compensation required to give something up. Example. Accepting development of that same forest. These are not symmetrical. WTA is typically 2 to 4 times higher than WTP. The reason is the endowment effect. Once people feel ownership, even abstractly, losses loom larger than gains. A classic research design might ask residents, how much would you pay to preserve this forest? How much would you accept to allow it to be developed? The gap between those answers reveals something less about money and more about psychology. Why we like what we like. Researchers investigating landscape aesthetics have adopted a surprisingly practical approach. They show people images and ask them to rate them. This is less glamorous than it sounds but highly effective. Methods include photo simulations, rating scales, scenic beauty estimation, eye tracking, GIS-based spatial analysis. The results are remarkably consistent. People prefer environments with water, vegetation, moderate complexity, open views combined with some sense of shelter. This balance is captured by prospect refuge theory. We like to see without being seen. Crowds without the crowd. One of the more exam-friendly distinctions is this. Density is objective, people per unit area. Crowding is subjective, how uncomfortable it feels. High density does not guarantee crowding. Design matters. Researchers study this using observational data, trail usage, visitor flow, surveys, perceived crowding, spatial modeling, trail width, visibility. Design interventions can reduce perceived crowding. Curving trails limit line of sight congestion, vegetation, or barriers, create psychological space. A crowded trail, it turns out, is often a design problem disguised as a population problem. The hospital window that changed everything. In the 1980s, Roger Ulrich conducted a study that quietly altered architecture. He compared post-surgery patients in rooms with a view of trees, a view of a brick wall. The results were not subtle. Faster recovery, less pain medication, fewer complications, shorter hospital stays. The implication was that environment affects physiology, not just mood. Hospitals, once designed like efficient warehouses, began to reconsider their priorities. How nature fixes a tired mind. While Ulrich focused on stress, Rachel Kaplan and Stephen Kaplan tackled attention. Their attention restoration theory, art begins with a limitation. Directed attention is finite. Modern environments demand it constantly. Nature, by contrast, engages soft fascination, attention that is effortless and undemanding. This allows cognitive resources to recover. A restorative environment has 4 qualities: being away, psychological distance from demands extent, richness and coherence fascination, effortless engagement compatibility, alignment with your goals. Nature works not because it is pretty, but because it is cognitively economical. The brain, the senses, and the world. All of this depends on how we process the environment in the first place. Sensation. Raw input, light, sound perception, interpretation of that input. The process runs. Sensory receptors, neural signals, brain processing. Different brain regions specialize. Visual cortex, auditory cortex. Attention filters what we notice. Perception constructs meaning. Consciousness integrates the result. Most of reality is politely ignored. Knowing where you are, or think you are. Humans navigate using cognitive maps, mental representations of space. 2 key components. Orientation. Knowing your position, wayfinding, choosing routes. These maps are efficient but imperfect. They distort distance, simplify layouts, and occasionally lead you confidently in the wrong direction. Seeing the world differently. Perception is not universal. As explored in The Nature Fix by Florence Williams. Japanese Shinrin Yoku emphasizes multisensory immersion. Western approaches prioritize visual scenery. Some cultures prefer dense forests, others prefer open savanna-like landscapes. Preference is partly biological, partly cultural. The world you hear. A soundscape is the total acoustic environment. Sound, neutral noise, unwanted or harmful. Loudness is measured in decibels dB. Plus 10 dB perceived, doubling, plus 10 dB 10 increase in intensity, logarithmic scale. Noise has measurable effects. Physiological, cortisol, hypertension, sleep disruption, cognitive, reduced reading ability, impaired attention. Studies near airports show consistent learning deficits. Noise interrupts cognitive processing cycles. Listening to ecosystems. Bernie Krause transformed ecology by listening. 2 key contributions. Biophony. Sounds of living organisms. Acoustic niche hypothesis. Species occupy distinct frequencies. Healthy ecosystems sound full and layered. Degraded ones sound sparse. The National Park Service studies this using acoustic monitoring stations, decibel mapping, visitor surveys. Findings. Human noise reduces animal communication range. Natural quiet enhances visitor experience. Walking, thinking, and feeling better. In Finland, spending time in nature is not a hobby but a habit. The Scandinavian paradox. High happiness, yet high suicide rates. Liisa Tavonen found. 5 hours month in nature improves well-being. 20 to 30 minutes provides immediate benefits. Kalevi Korpela found people favor quiet, safe, nature-rich places. The Power Trail combines walking with restorative environments. Research shows. Jenny Rowe. Nature reduces rumination. David Strayer. Improves memory and attention. Stanford, MRI. Reduced activity in rumination-related brain regions. Even Charles Darwin and Ludwig van Beethoven appear to have benefited from the occasional stroll, or wilderness, and the small self. After about 3 days in nature, something shifts. Stress declines, brain activity calms. This is sometimes called the 3-day effect. Awe plays a central role. Defined as a response to vastness requiring cognitive adjustment, awe reduces default mode network activity, produces a small self, increases prosocial behavior. Research by Dacha Keltner shows increased generosity, stronger feelings of gratitude, lower inflammation markers. Even negative awe, such as natural disasters, can strengthen social bonds. Children, sticks, and the decline of mud. Children experience nature differently. Exploratory, imaginative. Adults. Goal-oriented. Reduced outdoor time has been linked to anxiety, attention issues. Nature supports creativity, motor skills, focus, including ADHD symptom reduction. Nature-based education emphasizes experiential learning, emotional regulation, social development. Parents play a central role by modeling curiosity and engagement. Cities, systems, and sustainability. Urbanization has accelerated globally. Megacities expand while populations concentrate. Cities offer efficiency, innovation, access to services. Permanent settlements emerged through agriculture, which enabled stable food supplies. Urban form often follows a donut pattern. Dense core, expanding suburbs. Paris, redesigned through horsemanization, used wide boulevards for flow and control. Key distinction: population, total people density, people per area. Designing a better future. Sustainability introduces new models. Cradle to cradle design. Waste becomes input, Western cities. Retrofit, Eastern cities, planned from scratch. Singapore is often cited as a biophilic city, integrating greenery into dense urban form. The Khoo Teck Puat Hospital incorporates nature directly into healing design. Humans increasingly seek nature through technology, a tendency sometimes called technobiophilia. Experimental designs like Earthships aim for self-sufficient living using recycled materials. When systems fail. Jared Diamond describes societal collapse as the interaction of environmental damage, climate change, external pressures, societal response. The tragedy of the commons explains how shared resources are overused when individuals act in self-interest. Solutions include regulation, collective agreements to find ownership. Final thought. The thread running through all of this is not subtle. Humans are organisms shaped by environments that no longer dominate their lives. The further those environments drift from what our biology expects, the more we compensate with theory, design, and, occasionally, a well-timed walk in the park,